please. You can come and sit in front of this microphone, which is provided specifically for this purpose. All those who would like to ask questions may please come forward and sit in a line in front of the microphone provided for this purpose. Then they can take their turn without asking further permission.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Shabnam Kareem. I'm from Gillingham. Okay. My question is, when non-Ahmadis have what they call a khatam, are we allowed to go and are we allowed to eat the food there?
What is khatam? What do they say? What is the food for?
Celebrating something?
No, it all depends. There are different things for which they have such celebrations. Some are done for the sake of some dead saints, to please them. That is definitely haram. There is no question of any Muslim eating it. But there are some khatms, they do it just as a tradition, rasam. Practically they are meaningless things. And there, because there is an element of doubt, I should not encourage Ahmadis to go on eating them just because it's food. Right?
Right.
Better play safe.
Okay. So we are allowed to go?
Some people die, on the 40th day they have some ceremony, they cook food, and on the 11th they cook food for the sake of Hazrat Abdul Qadir Jilani and so on. There's such a confusion. It's very difficult for you to investigate exactly what a particular food is prepared for. So why to, unnecessarily encounter this danger of eating the wrong thing? Huh?
Okay, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum salam warahmatullah.
My name is Hazrat Ahmad. I'm from Gillingham.
Yes.
What are your views on the Hindu idols drinking milk?
You see, when you speak too close to the microphone, the voice is not clear to me, here at least. In other places, the loudspeakers are addressed in a direction that they can speak more clearly. Here, yes, please.
What are your views on the Hindu idols drinking milk?
The Hindu idols drinking milk. The Hindu idols drinking the statues when they say they're drinking milk.
Have they stopped drinking milk now? Can you believe it, really?
Well, I
it's
don't
all
believe it.
hocus pocus nonsense, just a
I
propaganda stunt, no more. In Germany, this question was asked of me, there were other Hindus as well. I said, let them, I'll have my murti bought from somewhere, and let them make it drink. All the Hindus put together would not be able to make that drink. They must have created some stunt to propagate, and the rest are the legends developed around that one incident of fraud. Right?
Thank you.
When we say Ashhadu an la ilaha, why do we have to raise our finger?
La ilaha illallah.
When we say Ashhadu an la ilaha, why do we raise our finger?
The finger, this finger, tashahud. What does la ilaha mean? La ilaha illallah. You know that? Translate la ilaha illallah, and then I'll answer your question. She doesn't know the meaning? Oh, poor thing, poor Lajna. You don't know the meaning of la ilaha illallah? How many others are there among the Nasirat who do not know the meaning of la ilaha illallah? Raise their hands, please. If you don't raise your hands, then I'll ask at random from someone.
Can I say it? There's none worthy of worship except Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
Why didn't you say that before? When you say La ilaha illallah, this means there is no God but one. And this is the finger, your single finger which is raised indicates one. So automatically, it's sort of corroboration of what you're saying is done by this raised finger. Right? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa
After our death, can we donate certain parts of our body, either so that someone who really needs them may live after us, or to just donate them to science research?
Without asking you every time, you better start doing it as a routine.
Can we donate parts of our body so that other people can be helped to live, or can we do it for the sake of research?
While living, you mean?
No, after our death.
After death. While you're alive, you can donate your parts after death.
Assalamualaikum.
Well,
What is the reason for reading Witr with Isha?
Witr after Isha? Right? I think I have spoken on that many times before during our question and answer sessions. According to Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, God is one, which is Witr. One is Witr, two is Juft, according to Arabic grammatical terms. One is Witr, two is Juft, three is Witr, four is Juft, 5 is Witr, and 6 is Juft, and so on and so forth. So because in English they say odd numbers or even numbers. So Witr is simply an odd number. Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said that because Allah is one and this is odd number, so He also likes odd numbers. And so in the Islamic system of prayers, it is indicated by the numbers of the prayers we have to say perform, or rakat we have to perform daily. For instance, the number of prayers which we have to say daily is 5, right?
Yeah.
That is an odd number. And then, although each prayer has even number of the 5 prayers, one is with odd number, which is Maghrib. So when you say Maghrib prayer, in all the obligatory prayers, the number is turned into odd. Because if you sum up all the rakat of other prayers, they would make an even number. But when you add upon them the Maghrib rakat, then all the number becomes odd. Right?
Right.
Or wrong?
Right.
Okay. Now, what is to be done about the nawafil? I was just talking to you about obligatory prayers, farz namaz. As far as the nafil or optional prayers are concerned, there also had to be devised some system of turning them all together into odd number. That is exactly what has been done by witr. Witr is the one rakat which turns all the nawafil or optional prayers into odd numbers. So that is why it is said singly at the end of nawafil. And the right time for that is during the Tahajjud prayer. Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say his nawafil, that is optional prayers, during the day in even numbers, and added upon them some prayers in even numbers in the tahajjud time. But before he finished, he would add a single rakat. And it is that which is called witr, which turned the entire number of optional prayers into an odd number. Now, because there are young boys and men and women who are weak, who cannot get up for tahajjud prayer, and anyway it's not compulsory, so there is a provision made for those people who would like to sleep after Isha and who cannot wake up for tahajjud. For them, this is a provision that they should say their witr after they have finished the sunnahs and nawafil of Isha prayer. And this is to be the last. For them, till the morning prayer, then there will be no other prayer. So when you say one single witr, it should be done at the end of the day's prayer or the night's prayer before the next morning. Got it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Islam says women should do parda. Islam also says that men should do parda by wearing some sort of head covering and looking down when they walk. Then why is it emphasized more for women to do parda, but men tend to get away with doing neither?
You see, on parda I have spoken for hours together now, here and other places. I can't repeat all that now. I have, during the last Jalsa in UK, I spoke on this subject. Were you there or not?
No.
It's obvious from your question. So better get hold of that cassette or video and see it, and inshallah, most of your questions will be found answered in that address.
Okay.
If not there, find the German cassette during the German Jalsa this year, and some more questions will be answered there. If not, then go back, starting from the first lecture I gave on this subject after I became Khalifa in 1982. At that Jalsa, my first address to ladies was on this subject. Right?
Right.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Asfa Ahmad. I'm from Huddersfield. In the Holy Quran, it says not to worship idols, worship Allah alone. Then why, when we perform Hajj, we walk around the Kaaba? Isn't that idol worshipping?
No. It is not idol worshipping, because we do not consider Kaaba to be an object of worship at all. We do not consider the stone which we kiss as a symbol of worship, and we do not kiss that stone because we consider it to possess any divine powers at all. Khana Kaaba is just a building of stone. So it is a question of what you consider it to be. If Khana Kaaba is considered to be only a home made of stones, then how could it be an object of worship at all? As far as the direction is concerned, it has a different symbolic meaning. And the Holy Quran has already explained it in relation to your facing towards Kaaba. It says that practically, if you study the philosophy of Islam, you will find that Islam wants unity. Unity so perfect that as we believe in God to be one, under Him, all those who believe in the unity of God should also become one. And as a symbol of oneness, when they stand in prayers, they should always face in the same direction, wherever they are. So, if a direction was to be chosen, the question would be which direction? And whichever direction was fixed, people could ask, why this direction, why not that? So turn whichever way you may, the question will not leave you. Why this? But in the choice of Kaaba, we have a very significant philosophy which makes it different from all other possible directions. That is why it is not a symbol of worship, it is a symbol of oneness of God. Khana Kaaba and its philosophy are discussed in the Holy Quran in various verses. And from that I gather a few points to help you understand this, because I know some people may be asking you and other similar questions, and you should be fully armed against these allegations. Khana Kaaba, according to the Holy Quran, was the first ever house which was built for the unification of mankind. So the significance of the house is unification of mankind. Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nasi lalladhi bi-Bakkata. The very first house that was ever made for the benefit of mankind, not Islam, not any religion, mankind, was the one built in Makkah, which was called in those days not Makkah but Bakka. So it shows its being very ancient house. So the purpose is obviously apparent, to unify mankind. But how? Other verses throw light on that, and we know that the unification of man could only be around the idea of unity of God. So the same house is mentioned as house of God. Not that Allah lives there, but because the very first house which was built for the worship of God was also the same house. Now this is an incident this is something which happened so far away back in history, that the Holy Quran does not tell us the detail as to who built this house in the first place. But the Holy Quran refers to this house as the most ancient house, Baitul Atiq. From that I infer that this was the first sign of civilization of man. It was this house which taught man how to live above the surface of the earth, to come out from the caves. So the caveman was first taught to live in a built abode like the Khana Kaaba, and the first purpose was the first civilization began from this. So this is both a symbol of the unity of mankind, a symbol of the unity of God. So if any place, any direction is to be fixed, it has the prior right over every other direction. This direction reminds you of oneness of mankind. This direction reminds you of oneness of God. As such, it is impossible to relate it to any concept of idol worship, even so remotely. It's impossible. Secondly, the Holy Quran further explains the object of this direction towards Kaaba, and tells us that remember this, God is not there. Don't misinterpret the word Baitullah as the house of God where you will see God residing. The Holy Quran says, exactly discussing the same subject, Ainama tawallu fathamma wajhullah. Remember, in whichever direction you turn, there would be Allah. So you can't run away from God. Wherever you look, there would be God. So God is not in Khana Kaaba itself. After this explanation, the only meaning left to Khana Kaaba is a symbolic presence, no more. Not of God, but of the unity of God. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
My question is, what is the significant thing about going around the Kaaba 7 times during Hajj?
Yes, the significance, again, as far as the number 7 goes, it has its own significance. As far as the history of how it began is concerned, we are told that Hazrat Hajra, who was the mother of Hazrat Ismail, wife of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, when she was left behind by the side of the ruins of Khana Kaaba by Hazrat Ibrahim. You know that? So I have to tell you all that because otherwise you will not understand the answer to the question. What happened was that Khana Kaaba was built so far back in history that nobody knows who built it and when it was built. The Holy Quran only tells us that it was built for this purpose and that purpose, and that is all the information there is to it. Also the Holy Quran tells us it is a Baitul Atiq, the most ancient house. But the Holy Quran also records the fact that as far as the present Khana Kaaba is concerned, it was built from the ruins of the oldest house by Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son Ishmael. And it was done under God's command to Ibrahim, that because the last of all the law-bearing prophets, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the seal of the prophets, was to appear to complete the purpose of this house, unity of God and unification of mankind, because he was to come as the one prophet who would address the whole mankind together and would not address only a single tribe or clan or country. As such, Abraham, being his grandfather in that sense, that he also stood out among all the prophets as a symbol bearer of unity, as custodian of unity on earth. So Allah chose him to rebuild Khana Kaaba, which had got buried under deep sand. Only a small stone was jutting out to indicate that it was here that the Khana Kaaba used to be. So Hazrat Abraham alayhi salatu wasalam was told by God that he should go and leave his wife Hajra, who is called Hagar in English, and Ismail, who is called Ishmael. As he was just a small baby. He should leave them by the house, and Allah would take care of them. He should leave them and go out so that right from the very beginning, Ismail should be raised as a boy raised around the house of Allah, from whose progeny there was to be born Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was all organized with a special purpose. So when Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam left these two, Hazrat Hajra and Ismail, there was no city, no township. It was a large, vast desert, in midst of which there was one stone jutting out indicating the remains of the ancient house of God. There was no water, no food. So he left there only a sack full of water, and it was in fact what's called mashk, a thing made of skin. You know, a large bag in which they fill the water and bind, and it still is used in India and Pakistan as such. So that skinful of water was left there, and also some food. And then he took leave of them and went back. Now this water ran out, as it should have, and there was no source of water available close to them. It was all just a desert. Then Hazrat Hajra became extremely anguished at the sight of his son, young son, suffering, crying for water, but there was no water. So in anguish, she ran from one hillock to another. There were two sand dunes close to each other, or small hillocks. So she went up the hill and looked around and saw if there was any trace of any caravan coming in that direction. And then she ran back, and then again back. And that she did 7 times. When suddenly she observed a very strange thing happening. The boy, where he was lying, striking his heels against the sand, suddenly there sprang out a fountain of fresh sweet water. And it was that water which we refer to as Ab Zamzam. Later on, a caravan observed the signs of water. So although it was not their route, because when there is water in the desert, there are always some birds. And very rapidly some greenery grows around it. So before the food was exhausted, a caravan was passing by, observed at some distance some signs of water. They were surprised because regularly they used to go along that path and there was no water. So when they reached there, they found Hazrat Hajra and Hazrat Ismail, unsheltered, sitting there, drinking the water and eating whatever food was left. So they decided to camp there. And it was the first dwelling, the first township which started building around that house. And when next time Hazrat Abraham returned, it was already a small village and an oasis of green, foliage building around and spreading out. And the water was plentiful because the water which sprang out was quite rich in its source. So with the grace of Allah, gradually the township of Mecca got built around this well. Now the number 7 is in itself a perfect number, but it so happened that God made Hazrat Hajra go up and down the hills 7 times, and from then on the 7 circuiting are also recorded and preserved. It is possible that it was Hazrat Abraham who, when later on built or rebuilt the house of God from its ruins, performed his first Hajj around it and made 7 circuits. So the word 7 is a very symbolic word which in fact means a limitless time and an unending thing. So 7 heavens are mentioned in the Holy Quran, while there is no end to the universe. 7 days are there to a week, and the weeks repeat themselves, go on unendingly. There are 7 verses of the Surah Fatiha, again symbolic of perfection, of an unending message. So the word 7 is very significant, and when you understand the significance of the letter 7, the figure 7, then you can relate it to the 7 circuits and 7 times up and down running in between the 2 hillocks. So the story becomes perfect and relatable and understandable. Have you answered your question?
Yes.
Or more than that? Right?
Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'm Sabia Dean from Hounslow. I have two questions. If I have chance, I will do the other. My first question is, some children do not know Dua Qunut, so does God help them with their namaz or not?
You see, namaz can be said to have been complete even without Dua Qunut, because Dua Qunut is very important, of course, because Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to say Dua Qunut, but it's not considered to be an essential part of the namaz, so that without it namaz will not be done. Surah Fatiha is essential. If you don't say Surah Fatiha, there will be no namaz. But Dua Qunut has an additional, optional meaning as well. But it is not that sort of option which you may ignore as you like, because Dua Qunut was regularly said by Hazrat Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and also it is a very important dua, very useful dua. So we teach Ahmadi children to remember this dua, to memorize it as almost essential. So if some girls have not been taught, the namaz may be accepted as having been completed, but not perfected. You can ask the question in another way. Give a different twist to the same question and say, is nose necessary for a woman to have on her face? If a woman is without a nose, would you define her as a woman or not? I would say yes. She is possible as a woman. But a woman without a nose and a woman with a nose, there's a, big difference between the two. You can ask, can a woman be accepted with one eye only? I would say yes, of course. Is she complete in the sense that she can perform everything she is built for? I would say yes. But I would say not perfect. Because there are two eyes, and the missing of one eye, although would not hinder her from performing her day-to-day tasks, yet would take something out of her beauty. This is also a part of human design. Beauty goes with it. So, call this beauty with a dua. But a very essential beauty like that of an eye being missing if it's not red.